Hello and welcome back to Love Essentials with Tara
and Hannah. And the last time we were with you, we were talking about finances. We don't have our special guest with us today, but in our last episode, we were talking about the importance of accountability in the finances. So even if you have separate accounts, a his and a hers and a joint, you should each know what's going on in each other's accounts. That's where the accountability comes in, and that's where trust comes in, because you should be able to trust one another in what you're doing.
Yes, so that last thing we talked about was the prenuptial agreement, and I'm not going to stay on it long.
Okay.
But understand that if there's a prenuptial agreement to the finances, and some of you don't have a legal prenuptial agreement,
right?
But there is a prenuptial agreement when you say we're going to keep these accounts separate. Mm-hmm. That is the agreement going into the marriage, and that's where we're staying. That's not on paper, but it's an agreement that says I need to walk off with no harm.
Right.
I need to walk off with no hurt. You're not going to threaten my finances. What you came into the marriage with is what you leaving out. And that shouldn't be the case.
It shouldn't.
Not if we are one. If we are one, we should come into this marriage saying that I expect to receive from you. I expect this marriage is going to be a benefit to me. I am not worried about what I'm going to lose in this marriage.
There's some people out there who will say, so he's supposed to take half of what I built without him. But the thing is you shouldn't be going into your marriage thinking about that, right? Because
I should freely want to give you of what I have. This is what God has blessed me, because we got to remember, God gives out the gifts and the talents.
Right.
God gives out the resources. We talked about that in one of our episodes before. So what? You're a neurosurgeon. God gave you the intelligence to be a neurosurgeon. Right. God gave you the parents that were able to get you through school, or the scholarships. So now when you lord that over your spouse and say, this is mine,
right?
Why are you getting married? If that's still just yours and you built that and you're not willing to share with your spouse, you are missing the mark of marriage.
And we're supposed to share with one another. And it's very interesting that you said that, because I recently was talking to the kids about the story in the Bible where Jesus gave the parable about how the man had all this wealth and he was going to tear down his storehouse and build a bigger one to keep it all. And God was like, this day you'll die, because when you die, that's not going to go anywhere. It's not for you. The blessing is not for you to hold it all together.
Yes.
It's for you to give out. And so when you're getting married, you've built this with God's help, and now he's joined you with this person. You should be willing to share, just like you said, with that person. Yes. It shouldn't be about mine. You can have it.
And then I need to value what you bring, because you may not bring a 6-figure income.
Right.
Maybe you bring a smaller income, but you bring the wealth of your knowledge, the wealth of the nurturing gifts that God gave you, the wealth of your organization skills, whatever it is that you have, the wealth of helping me take care of my health. Your spouse has something. Now, if you're marrying somebody and you can't see anything about them that you need to add to your life, that you're gonna gain from them, then you shouldn't marry them, because when God yokes us up equally with somebody, it means they have something that you're in need of.
Right.
And it may not be money. And your money may be something that's needed in the marriage. So it shouldn't be my money, my bank account. I choose what I do with the finances. Because at the end of the day, God needs the couple coming and working together for the mission that he has for them.
Right.
Marriage being a ministry means that God has a purpose for you and your spouse. Right. He has a reason that he brought all of the resources that both of you have together. And the mission of the couple should be, God, tell us why. Now that we have good resources together, the finances look great. We both are being healthier because somebody brought that in. We both are better nurturers because somebody brought that in.
Right.
What do you want to do with us as a couple? And when we separate the finances, you're never coming together to figure that out.
No, because you're always thinking about it as yours. It's not a contribution or a shared or a joint situation. You're thinking about what I bring to the table, what I did. And going back to what you just said, we talked about this in an earlier episode about how you complement one another. If God truly brought the two of you together, then there, like you said, there's something in him, there's something in her that you both needed, which is why you're together, so that you can complete, and not necessarily complete, but complement one another. And it's important for us to realize that when it comes to the finances, because that's one of the issues. It's like when it comes to money, that's where there's a problem.
It's a huge problem.
And the thing is that it's always like you're trying to have this nest egg. You're trying to have this to the side, just in case. And it's like, why do you have a plan B? Why did you jump into this situation with a plan B if this is truly when you went to the altar?
Yes.
In the back of your mind, and you have to ask yourself this question, in the back of my mind when I was at the altar, was I thinking if this doesn't work out? Because if that's what you're thinking at the altar, then you might as well be the one when the preacher says, is there anyone who objects? I do. Let me walk out, because it makes absolutely no sense for you to go into a marriage with a plan B just in case this doesn't work out.
I'm telling you, that is how in my head, I didn't have an issue with divorce when I first came into my marriage. Why? Because I had a lot of relatives who had experienced divorce, who I saw a lot of women raising their children on their own. So in my head, divorce was not a good thing, but it wasn't devastating.
Right.
So going into that, not thinking this could be forever, it did make me criticize my spouse more. It made me have my imaginary checklist of these are the things that's irritating me, and if enough of those things start to bother me, I'm going to go a separate way.
Right.
And I really had to divorce that thought process of, Tara, you're not getting out of this. God hates divorce. He wants you to work it out with your spouse. And if there are conflicting issues between the two of you, that's because he's trying to work out something in your character and something in his character.
Right.
So if there's a real issue that's bothering one of you all, it is because somebody is not tuning in and saying, God, what are you trying to get out of me or get into me through this relationship with my spouse? If I'm stingy about my money and no, you can't touch my money, no, you don't need to see what I make, you're actually treating your spouse how you really are treating God. Because I guarantee you that same person is not paying tithes and offering, not giving of their money to things that would benefit the kingdom of God or advance ministries or help others. Most of the time that person is holding their money to the chest. It's not just from their spouse. It's from God using their money, period.
Right.
It's usually the same type of attitude. So when you say, I am coming together with my spouse and I am sharing of the funds, you're telling God, and if you need me to share with you too, God, if you need me to share my finances and make them fully available, and I'm willing to submit to you, Lord, what do you want me to do with the wealth that you've blessed me with? That's what you're saying first in marriage. Right. You're saying that. But see, as single people, you really should be saying that to God before you get married.
Right.
Then you don't have a problem with sharing with your spouse.
And that's it right there. It's about how your posture was prior to getting married and how you were when you were single. Because if you were willing to give and you were a cheerful giver, and you were the one who was like, God, use me however, because I recognize that it's because of you why I have what I have. I did not get here by myself. So when you were just like, however you want to use me, these are your resources that you've given to me. You are my ultimate source.
Yes.
And you've given me these resources to get it out into the land so that I could be a blessing. If that was how your heart was, if that was your posture, then when you're getting married and you guys start talking about the finances and what you're going to do together, it won't be an issue.
It won't be an issue.
You'll be able to continue to be a cheerful giver and say to your husband or say to your wife, this is what I have. This is what I make. This is how I can contribute to our overall household and our income. And then they would be able to say the same thing. You know, and I know that we're not here today to try to tell anybody how they should be, you know, running their households. But this is just something, a little nugget to drop into your ear for you to start thinking about these things, thinking about how you are operating right now and asking God, is this something I should continue?
Yes.
If you do have a his and hers and you don't know what's going on in his and he doesn't know what's going on with you.
You better find out.
You need to have a conversation and you need to at least first go to God and ask God, is this the way that we should be operating?
Separate, because that's what you're doing. You're actually operating separate.
Right.
And God doesn't want separatism. No. Not in marriage. There's no such thing.
Right, because we're one.
We are one.
Yes.
And single people, if you have a person that you're dating and they already are not submitting to God any portion of their finances, I want you to wave a big red flag, because if they can't submit it to God, they're going to have an issue submitting to you how they spend their money. It is a red flag. And see, as couples, we have to go back to understanding everything we do and coming together is for a purpose and a mission. Your money has a mission.
Yes.
Your money actually has a mission. It should be aimed towards something. So You know, there are going to be people who still say, you know, I'm not sharing up my finances.
I'm going to do what I'm going to do.
If you have a spouse like that and they are adamant and they say, I'm not doing that, you know, I don't care. We've been doing this for 20 years. I suggest that you pray. You talk to God. Say, God, I don't like how this situation is. God, I know this is not what you want. You do want us to be vulnerable and open to each other. You submit your finances to your spouse. Say, look, how about I'm just going to give you my finances and let you run the finances for the household. Let you wave that white flag first and say, you know what? You don't want to share with me, but I'm fully willing to share with you. Here are my finances. Here are my logins. I'm going to submit my paycheck, my salary into your accounts, and I will allow you to do it because I want us to be one. Right. You may have to be the first one to make that move and say, here I am. Here is all of me, and I'm giving it to you. And let God work on your spouse's heart. Yeah. Somebody has to move first.
Somebody does have to move first. We can't just keep saying, well, I'm waiting on them. Well, y'all will be waiting forever, especially if you've already been going along with this journey together in your marriage, doing things separately. And we realize that it's not going to happen overnight.
No.
And we also realize that some of these things, and we talked about this in the last episodes, that some of these things are rooted from the childhood.
It is.
From what you saw your parents do. Maybe your parents had separate accounts, or maybe you saw how, you know, one parent struggled because another parent was off valleygalloping and never know. I mean, I know some households that was that way, where the husband came home and he just gave the check to the wife and thought that she was paying all the bills, and come to find out she was doing other things with it and they lost their house. So we understand that those things happen, and that it builds up this wall where you can't trust.
Yes.
But we've been talking about this leading up to finances, talking about how we can tear those walls down, talking about how we can become vulnerable, because it's going to take that. If you want your marriage to work, you have to be willing to strip off the layers, strip off the hurt, allow God to come in and heal those broken areas in your life, because at this point, He's the only one that can be that mender of your broken heart.
Yes.
He's the only one that can fill whatever void that is that keeps you from being willing to share that part. You're saying to yourself, Hannah, I can share everything else, but when it comes to my finances, no. Because I've seen too much. I've gone through too much. This part, I need to have my nest egg. But do you? Or are you right now relying on yourself? On your own strength.
We should be trusting God.
Exactly.
We have to trust God. And even if your spouse did some things when you first were married and it made you say, oh, they're a horrible money manager, you have to forgive. You have to say, you know what, when you did that, 10 years ago, and you put us in a stressful financial situation, I was very angry, but I had to forgive you. And my sign of forgiving you is I want us to now merge these accounts. We have to show forgiveness even in those things. But I also want to hit an important part when we talk about these finances, because some people are allowing their family members to get in on that financial situation. I'm going to be honest, I had family members. They would ask me for money. And then I'd say, well, I need to talk to Jason about this. I love being able to talk to Jason about this, because I really want to say no. Anyway, and they would say, why do you have to talk to Jason? You don't have your own money. A smart woman keeps her own money to the side. Why does Jason need to know everything that you do? Why does your husband? And I said, well, we are one.
Yes.
So if you don't want Jason knowing that you are asking me for this money, you don't need to be asking me for this money.
Right.
And I'm telling you, the manipulation was real. No, you need to leave me some respect. Your husband don't need to know that. That's going to make me look bad. What if it make you look bad? Stop asking. Because I had to allow them to know Jason and I were one.
Yes.
Because it took a while for me even to get to that place, because even when we first got married, I wouldn't tell him that I would loan family members money. I wouldn't tell him at all. Okay. I would just take it out of something secret or pay something for them on a credit card, because you remember we talked about those credit cards last week were secretive. I would pay people's bills on the credit card, and he's like, how did you accumulate this amount on your credit card? Well, I was doing a lot of giving out and paying things for other people, knowing that he truly was accountability for me, because I shouldn't have been doing that in the first place. Those were not godly transactions. That was other people manipulating my kindness and compassion.
Yeah.
When I have a husband that is not easily manipulated,
Right.
who could have came on my behalf.
And he's your covering.
He was
but you
covering.
weren't allowing him
I wasn't
to
allowing
cover
him to
you
cover
because you weren't
I
telling
had to
what's
let him
going on.
eventually because they were sucking me dry. And I started saying, well, I have to talk to Jason. Jason and I have a budget.
Right.
Jason and I have decided
Yes.
this is all we're going to do and be able to do. And eventually they left me alone because even if your family is used to using you, manipulating you, getting stuff out of you, it's something different when they got to talk to your spouse.
Right.
Because they don't have that same relationship. And they have to actually give reason to why they're asking over and over and over again for the help.
Yes.
They have to ask your spouse and let them have to ask your spouse.
And your spouse is coming in with a new set of eyes, a new perspective. So there's questions that you probably wouldn't
never
ask,
ask.
like, why do you need this in the first place? What happened? Because if you're working, why aren't you able to pay this bill? And see, those are the questions that they don't want to deal with.
Oh,
So
no, they didn't want to hear that. You know, I just need this. I'm going to pay you back.
Right.
But you really don't be paying me back. But my husband is looking for that money.
Right.
He's wondering now what happened to so-and-so when they
Where's
said
that?
they were going to give it back. And my husband was asking those questions. I would say, hey, my cousin wants us to support the business, his business. Okay, where's his business plan? And at what point are we going to get that back? And what's the rate of return? And I'm like, let me go back and ask him. Because I was just thinking, we have it and we can give it. He said, that's not how business is run. And he said, you're actually not helping your cousin because he needs to work, have a business plan so he can even know that he's going to get his money in return on that investment. He says, that's not what we're going to do. And I let him, I said, well, you're right. I didn't ask any of those questions. My heart sometimes is too big.
Just
I'll
wanted
give
to
it all
give.
away. Here it is. Give it all away. And God gave me somebody who's like, wisdom.
Yes.
Wisdom.
Yep.
That there's wisdom has to come into your giving. But I also help him to give sometimes. Because there are times when I'll
That's
tell
that
him.
compliment.
Yes.
Yep.
I'll say, hey, I think we need to give to this particular cause or give to this mission, but we will talk about it.
Right.
What does that giving look like? How much? How often?
Because it's the household.
Yes.
And
yes.
it goes back to what we said at the beginning. It's the becoming one.
Becoming
if we're
one.
one, you shouldn't be out here by yourself doing things that I don't know about.
Yes.
Just like I shouldn't be out here by myself doing things that, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's the becoming one. And so, again, if there is separate accounts, fine. But you should know what's going on in that account.
Yes.
You should know what's going into that account and what's coming out of that account. And together there should be some decisions that are made as a household.
Yes.
Like there's nothing wrong with you having your honey pot and he has his honey pot and he's able to spend his money. But he shouldn't be purchasing no boat that you don't know about. You know what I'm saying? Like cars and all these expensive gadgets, and because that's coming out of his that's my
I bought
money.
that
I
out
can
of
do that.
mine. I showed up today with a motorcycle and I didn't tell you about it. That's ridiculous, and I don't care who you are out there. It's ridiculous for you to show up with large purchases and you haven't told your spouse. You are not taking you're not really becoming one and letting them know I spent our money today. You cannot have a selfish mentality about your money and be married.
Yeah.
You just really cannot do that.
And that's key.
And it's not that you're asking for permission,
Right.
but you're considering, hey, what do you think about this purchase?
Right.
There should be an advice or some type of wisdom that comes out of your spouse to say, okay, you want that. If you think that's the best time to buy this,
Right.
are you thinking long term? I don't know much about what you're purchasing, but is that the one you really want? Should we consider waiting till you get enough money to get the one that you really want?
Right.
They can give you that wisdom, whereas your flesh wants to get it today. Sometimes God just wants you to stop and consider. And that conversation with your spouse will make you stop and consider.
Right.
There's a lot of times I've wanted to purchase things because I just wanted to do it in that moment. But after talking to my husband, he says, you know what, that probably isn't the one you want. Here are the specs on it. Here are the issues down the line. And I'm so glad that I stopped and waited until a better purchase came later, and I felt better about that purchase. And I felt good because he was on board with me.
Right.
So I didn't even feel like he resented the purchase, because you can buy some stuff without your spouse's input and they'll resent that thing until it's no longer good.
Right.
Because they weren't involved in it.
Right. I mean, I'll give a prime example. And Anthony and I have shared this testimony before, but it was when he had purchased a television not necessarily without me knowing, but without me giving my, like full approval, and approval is the wrong word to say.
You're buying.
Yeah, you know, me saying that yes, this is the right purchase for now, and I was actually against it. I was like, no, I don't think we need this TV right now, and I think maybe the way that I said it, it just was a trigger for him, and he was just like, oh, you're not gonna tell me what I can't. Yeah, he was just like, you aren't gonna tell me what I can't do type situation. I don't think that that's how I said it, but maybe I did.
That's the trigger.
All I know is I came home and there was a big TV inside of our living room.
He gonna show you.
When you talk about resentment, yes, there was resentment there. I refused to even watch that television.
Oh.
And when I came in, he was like, Hannah, look at it. Don't you think it's nice? I was just like, good evening, and walked into the bedroom. I was just like, I have nothing more to say to you. Like, you went ahead and purchased this.
The purchase was not worth it. Was not worth the aggravation.
And it bothered him because Anthony is big on us being in agreement and making purchases like that. So he ended up taking it back, you know, but it was a lesson for the both of us to actually have a conversation.
Yes.
Like, yes, I understand this is something that you want. I'm not saying that you shouldn't have it. You deserve it. You work hard.
Yes.
But is now the right time for it? And that's where that accountability comes in. And I think the biggest thing why people will want to keep things separate is because I don't want you to hold me accountable.
No, you're not telling me what I'm doing with my money.
I don't want to answer to anybody.
I'm telling you, it was so funny because when we got married, he made more money than me. So, of course, I wanted to merge the accounts. Of course. Let's please today merge. And then some years later, when I start making really good money, and he's still watching the accounts, I'm like, this would be a good time for us to separate. And the reason why I wanted to separate, because I just didn't want him to tell me what to do. I did want to still give to my family members without telling him. I did still want to buy stuff without him saying, how much did you spend on that today? I just didn't want to hear it. Like, don't hold me accountable. But, you know, God worked in my spirit like, no, because you wanted to merge them.
Yep,
keep them merged.
Right.
So y'all are merged. And we've been that way ever since. And it helped us get out of debt faster. Whenever we had debts, it's helped us to pay for things faster, pay things off. It's helped us to invest together as a couple. There have been so many benefits of every time anybody gets any money, it's in one pot. And he knows we together are doing what's best for the household, for our children, for us as a couple. I don't have to go to him and say, give me half of the money I spent on the kids' school clothes. That is ridiculous. If you are out here and your spouse has to ask you for their half, for you to give them half on the children's school clothes, food, hair, that is ridiculous.
Or the lights going out because you ain't paid the light bill.
It's ridiculous. I don't care what y'all say. You can leave it in the comments. I don't care. But if we are coming and I have to say, I need your half on this, and we have a house together and children together, that means we're just roommates.
Right.
We co-parenting in here. That's all we're doing. We're co-parenting. And it's not okay.
It's not a marriage.
And it's not godly. And I'm telling you, if you are a believer, you have to talk to God about that. Because, you know, that's who we're talking to is believers. The rest of you, do you. And tell me how that works out.
If you want them, you know.
Yeah. You can apply it too, even if you're not a believer. But I'm specifically talking to believers.
Yes.
God says you are supposed to come together. And if you have a heart issue letting go of your money or allowing your spouse to know what you're making, talk to God about it.
Yes.
Now, they all over the place spending the money and y'all about to be in the poorhouse. That is a training issue, and you need to talk to God about that too. God, show me how to speak to my spouse in wisdom and train them on money management skills. Help me to show my spouse how to budget the money so that they understand what they're doing is hurting the family. The way that they're spending money is going to lead us into horrible debt, bad credit, and in a very threatening situation if one of us or both of us should lose our job. If you are a spouse that's overspending and taking advantage, you need to stop. Stop. Because that's why your spouse is not wanting to come together with you. So you have to pray and get rid of that. If you know that you are just spending and you're hoarding and you're not saving, God has to come and fix that. And he may be doing it through your spouse.
Right.
Take the lesson. Take the training.
Take it. And basically, we just need to understand that all these different tips, all these different episodes that we have gone over, it's all about being accountable, on one another and being vulnerable with one another. Because what God wants and what we have to understand with marriage is that this is the earthly depiction of that relationship that we have with God.
Yes.
You know, we have to be accountable to God. We have to be vulnerable with Him because God already knows what we're feeling. He's just like, why don't you just be real with me? Tell me, I know your thoughts before you think them.
Yes.
So and extended that grace, making room for each other's faults.
Yes.
Because how many times do we fail God? How many times do we mess up? But He gives us grace.
Yes.
So, it's no more, well, my spouse does this, my spouse does that. No, where's the grace that you're giving your spouse? Where's the accountability? How can you help them? How can you nurture them? How can you intercede for them? All those things is what we've been talking about.
Yes.
And that is how your marriage can be a beautiful thing. It's going to take work. It's going to take you, stripping yourself of your pride, stripping yourself of the hurt that you may have experienced or have gone through. But it comes down to knowing that there is beauty in marriage. And we can
it's
enjoy
a beautiful thing.
Yes.
And this is our last episode of this season of Love Essentials, where marriage was so important to us. We had to begin with marriage. That first relationship, because it's a good thing.
It's a good thing,
God
y'all.
says when a man finds a wife, he finds a good thing. And ladies, when he found you, you found a good thing too.
Yes.
Because God yoked you up with everything that you needed. If God is in the marriage, it's something in there for you.
Yes.
And He's trying to get you to that best place. And so we wanted to talk to you all. We're going to have a live session.
Yes, where you get to talk to us.
You
ask
get to
us questions.
Because I know y'all have questions. I know they want to say something to us. I want them to say, now, what about that thing you said? That's fine. We want you to come on live with us February the 3rd at 7:00 p.m.
Yes.
Hannah and I will be live. And, we might even invite the fellas back.
We might invite them back.
If
if you
they're
want
not
to ask them a
scared.
couple of questions,
We'll bring them in and let us together talk. We want to hear back from you all. We want to know that this series even bless you.
Yes.
If it blessed you, if you apply some stuff to your marriage, if you're single and you say, you know what, I never really thought about that. Thank you. We want to hear from all of you who've been watching us over the last couple of months.
Thank you for watching.
Thank you for watching. We do appreciate it because we did it for you all. This is our ministry. This is our service to you. And there are going to be a lot of things coming down the pipeline. So those of you who are on live February the 3rd at 7:00 p.m., you're going to be the first to hear everything that we have coming for our Love Essentials Network. So have an awesome day, and we'll see you next time on
Love Essentials. Thank you for joining us today. We hope you got something out of the episode.
If you want to connect with us, you can email us at loveessentialsshow@gmail.com.
Or check us out on Facebook at Love Essentials.
Or Instagram at The Love Essentials.
You can also check me out on Hannah's World Podcast on Spotify or iTunes.
And check me out at TaraBody.com, where you can pick up my latest book, Marriage is a Beautiful Thing, But I Wish I Would Have Known. We appreciate you watching our show today. Take care.
Bye.